They claim fear announces itself before it's visible, through an exhale sustained beyond comfort, through footfalls that pause uncertainly before crossing a threshold. Yet that particular evening, when Casimir murmured, "Please don't let him find me," a Hell's Angel called Reed Walker made a decision that would transform both their lives permanently. Before we proceed, share in the comments where you're joining us from. If this narrative resonates with you, please show your support by liking and subscribing to ensure you catch every story of perseverance. Don't forget to activate notifications and share encouragement. The interstate sliced through Nevada's flatlands like an open wound, sun-scorched and unbroken. 20 miles beyond service stations and sandy expanses stood Red's Roadhouse Cafe, an isolated way station for long-haul drivers, wanderers and individuals who belonged nowhere else. Leah Brooks handled the early hours. Her light blue work uniform washed out and frayed along the bottom edge. Her arms throbbed from wielding coffee carafes. Her expression forced into pleasantness, her gaze carrying invisible burdens. She'd been existing under Troy's shadow, her companion, a garage worker whose rage preceded his words, whose hands delivered violence before explanation. The cafe had transformed into her sanctuary, a space where ambient noise drowned her inner turmoil. That particular afternoon, conversations ceased as the rumble of motors drew near. Deep rolling resonance. 6 motorcycles arrived, dirt swirling around their tires. The entrance opened and in strode Cole Mercer, imposing, muscular, his leather vest gleaming beneath desert sunlight. The crimson and ivory insignia declared Hell's Angels Nevada chapter. Leah's grip wavered as she distributed coffee and destiny set itself in motion. Cole claimed the corner table, positioned toward the entrance. His expression held neither warmth nor hostility, simply the variety of composure that compelled others to clear his path. Leah delivered his beverage, exercising caution to prevent spillage. "Black, no sweetener?" she inquired gently. "You recall?" He responded, his voice gravelly. She appeared startled. "You visited previously?" "Several occasions. Perhaps last year." He examined her features a moment further. Didn't appear so frightened then. The observation struck her like confronting a reflection. Before she could respond, the bell above the entrance chimed once more, and her pulse ceased. Troy entered. The atmosphere became dense. He surveyed the space, bloodshot eyes from alcohol consumption, mouth twisting into contempt upon spotting her. "There you are," he snarled. Leah became immobilized, her serving tray trembling in her grasp. "I instructed you not to work this establishment." His declaration carried across the room, attracting attention. Cole's expression hardened. He remained stationary momentarily, simply observing. Troy extended his arm, seizing Leah's wrist with sufficient force to elicit a grimace. "We're departing." She attempted withdrawal, moisture forming in her eyes. "Please, not in this place." That's when Cole rose to his feet. The sound of his chair scraping across flooring severed the tension like a sharpened edge. Cole refrained from elevating his voice. The necessity didn't exist. "Release her," he stated, advancing forward. Troy pivoted, assessing him, his expression crooked with overconfidence. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who disapproves of witnessing a man restrain a woman that way." The biker's delivery remained measured, yet weighted. The variety of composure suggesting violent confrontation remained discretionary. "This isn't your concern," Troy expelled. "It is presently," Cole countered. Leah's respiration caught, her heartbeat accelerating. Troy displaced her forcefully and positioned himself confrontationally, chest expanded. The remaining angels at surrounding tables lowered their beverages, silent yet vigilant. Cole's focus never wavered from Troy's. "You desire to strike something?" "Strike me." For an instant nobody moved. Then Troy swung wildly, clumsily. Cole sidestepped effortlessly and intercepted his limb midair, rotating it until Troy collapsed to his knees with an outcry. "Are you finished?" Cole inquired. The establishment fell utterly silent. Leah retreated, palm covering her mouth. Troy glared upward at him, gasping for air. "You believe you're her protector?" Cole leaned closer. "No, merely the individual positioned between you and another error." Upon release, Troy staggered toward the exit, expelling profanity into the dust. Cole turned toward Leah. "Are you all right?" Her voice fractured. "Can you conceal me?" Cole appeared surprised, not by terror, but by the gravity in her tone. "Conceal you?" Laya acknowledged, desperate. He won't cease. He perpetually returns. Cole glanced toward the parking area where Troy's vehicle idled at a distance. Beside you have belongings in back. Retrieve them. Laya wavered. You're unfamiliar with me. Unnecessary, he stated. Simply trust me. She disappeared into the kitchen, re-emerging shortly thereafter with a compact duffel and a heart racing beyond rational thought. Outside, Cole's brothers already awaited. Complications? Inquired Ryder, the club's road captain. Cole dismissed the notion. Not yet. He transferred Laya his additional helmet. You've ridden previously? Never. Then maintain a secure hold. Her hands trembled as she mounted the rear of his motorcycle. When the motors ignited, the cafe's neon signage flickered overhead like a benediction. Dust ascended behind the formation as they thundered down the vacant highway. Laya clutching his jacket, her former existence diminishing in retrospect. She remained uncertain of their destination. Understood only that for the first occasion in years, someone transported her away rather than dragging her backward. They traveled for 60 minutes, the sun dissolving into the desert skyline. Eventually, Cole decelerated near a cluster of mobile homes behind a scrapyard. Welcome to Raven's Hollow, he announced. It's modest, but secure. Laya's legs wavered when she dismounted the bike, her eyes enlarged at observing the encampment. Motorcycles arranged in precise formations, fire barrels burning low, laughter resonating in the twilight. Several members acknowledged respectfully. One elder woman in a worn vest approached, her silver hair fashioned into a braid. Who's the young woman? She questioned. Acquaintance experiencing difficulties, Cole answered. The woman studied Laya's bruised wrist, then smiled warmly. You're protected here, sweetheart. Name's May. Laya's eyes moistened. Gratitude. May guided her inside a trailer filled with comfort, coffee, and the melody of an aged jukebox. Cole lingered at the entrance. Rest, eat. Nobody will locate you here. Laya regarded him, this stranger who'd transformed into her defender in one improbable day, and whispered, Why are you assisting me? Cole's response remained straightforward. Because once someone concealed me, too. The door secured shut, and for the first occasion, Laya permitted herself respiration. Morning arrived gradually over Raven's Hollow. The desert atmosphere carried the aroma of coffee and motor lubricant as sunlight penetrated through the window coverings of May's trailer. Laya awakened to silence, the variety that feels delicate, like glass preceding fracture. For the first occasion in years, nobody shouted her name. She stepped outside barefoot, observing the men adjust their motorcycles. Laughter rolling between them like wind across gravel. Cole sat separately, sleeves elevated, lubricant on his forearms, repairing an aged carburetor with steady patience. Upon noticing her, he offered acknowledgement. You slept? Almost, she responded softly. Feels surreal. Safety feels peculiar when you've been deprived of it for extended periods, he stated, not glancing upward. She hesitated. You mentioned someone concealed you once. Cole's hands paused. Yes, my father believed suffering created stronger men. It merely made me cruel. A woman named May extracted me before I became him. Laya's chest constricted. So you remain here because you're indebted to her? No, Cole stated, glancing upward. I remain because I'm indebted to myself for improvement. The truth suspended there. Quiet, substantial, and precisely what she required hearing. May returned from town that afternoon with provisions and an expression indicating news. Truck passed through Red's cafe earlier, she stated. Individual making inquiries. Rough character. Cole's jaw tightened. Troy, May acknowledged. Stated the girl fled with a biker. He's informing people you abducted her. Laya's stomach plummeted. He'll locate me, won't he? Cole leaned against the railing. Not if I reach him first. No, she stated quickly. Please, I don't desire anyone harmed on my account. Cole studied her for an extended moment. You ever consider some men only comprehend consequences? His tone wasn't merciless, simply weary, like someone who'd witnessed mercy fail excessively often. Laya declined. I simply desire peace. He exhaled, discarding his tool aside. Then we'll ensure you obtain it. Outside, the remaining riders assembled, conversing quietly. The Brotherhood wasn't concerned with vengeance. It concerned establishing boundaries in the dust and determining which side you perish on. Cole turned toward May. Provide her alternative clothing. We depart at dusk. Where? Laya inquired. Somewhere he won't locate you, Cole stated, and where you might eventually recall who you are. By dusk, the formation departed. 8 motorcycles gliding across the desert like shadows stitched with thunder. Laya traveled behind May in the support vehicle, observing taillights flash against the expanding darkness. The resonance of engines was strangely comforting, like the pulse of something ancient and devoted. They halted at a small outpost designated Dry Creek Station, half fueling stop, half abandoned settlement. The men established camp, fires crackling as coyotes vocalized in the distance. Laya stood beside Cole's motorcycle, tracing the weathered leather seat with her fingers. "How long have you been with them?" she inquired. "Since I was 19, he stated, igniting a cigarette. "They extracted me from the streets before incarceration did. Instructed me how to fight, how to ride, how to advocate for something beyond myself." He exhaled smoke, eyes gleaming beneath firelight. "We aren't saints, Laya, but we don't harm the innocent." "That's the principle," Laya acknowledged slowly. "You think I'll ever cease being afraid?" Cole regarded her, voice steady. "Fear's like a scar. It never disappears. You simply learn it doesn't possess you anymore." The fire crackled, and for the first occasion she believed him. The following morning, Cole rode into town solitary to investigate news. Upon return, his expression was severe. "Troy's been making inquiries at biker establishments, offering currency. States if he can't possess you, nobody will." Laya's stomach twisted. "I should simply approach the police," May interjected. "Honey, men like him communicate faster than justice operates," Cole acknowledged. "He's desperate. That renders him careless and dangerous." Laya stood taller. "Then I'm finished fleeing." The declaration surprised even her. Cole raised an eyebrow. "You're certain?" "I won't conceal indefinitely," he smirked slightly. "There's the fire I observed in that establishment. That evening, the strategy materialized. If Troy appeared, they'd permit him. The serpents didn't require authorization to defend their own. The moon suspended low as they waited, the desert still as a captured breath." Laya sat beside May, hands trembling but resolute. She wasn't the same woman who'd whispered for assistance. She was someone reborn in chrome and courage. The roar of a solitary engine approached, headlights slicing through the darkness. Cole whispered. He arrived to conclude something. "Let's ensure he learns what refusal truly signifies." Troy's truck skidded to a halt near the campfire. He stumbled outward, shouting her name. "Laya, you believe you can hide behind these animals?" Cole stepped forward, the fire reflecting off his sunglasses. "Careful what you label family." Troy raised a pistol, hand trembling. "She's mine," he yelled. Laya stood then, voice firm, resonating through the desert. "I'm not yours. Not presently. Not ever." For a second, Troy faltered. Rage clouded his features. The weapon wavered, but before he could aim, a sharp crack divided the atmosphere. May had discharged a warning shot from behind him, her voice steel. "You depart or you don't depart at all." Troy froze, comprehending the circle of motorcycles surrounding him wasn't theatrical. Cole stepped closer, composed yet lethal. "You heard her once. You won't receive the opportunity again." Troy released the weapon, eyes widened with defeat. Cole kicked it aside. "Now enter that truck and drive until your fuel depletes." Troy complied, stumbling into the driver's seat, disappearing into the night. When the sound faded, Laya's legs surrendered. Cole intercepted her before she struck the dirt. "You're liberated now," he murmured. "You fought back, and that's what makes you one of us." The following morning dawned gently over the desert, painting the horizon in gold and amber. The campfire had long extinguished, leaving only a thin curl of smoke drifting into the brightening sky. Laya awakened beneath May's aged quilt, her head resting on a saddlebag, Cole's jacket draped over her shoulders. For the first occasion in years, her sleep hadn't been interrupted by fear. She stepped outside to find Cole tightening the straps on his motorcycle. "He's departed," she stated quietly. He acknowledged. "Yes, he won't return. Men like that don't confront fire twice." She smiled faintly, tracing the angel's insignia on his vest. "You didn't have to do any of this." Cole shrugged. "You requested help. I heard you. That's sufficient." His tone carried something additional, an unspoken understanding between survivors. May handed her a cup of coffee, steam curling upward. "What are you going to do now?" she inquired. Laya glanced at the horizon, her lips trembling into a smile. Maybe discover who I was before I forgot. May chuckled. That's a good start, darling. Around here, we don't flee from our stories. We rewrite them. Laya remained at Raven's Hollow, assisting May operate the small supply shed and maintaining the books for the crew's roadside repairs. The men treated her with quiet respect. No pity, no questions, simply space. Each day she grew slightly steadier, her laugh slightly louder. Ava, one of the members' daughters, would visit on weekends and help her paint aged license plates into signs. You're like a teacher, Ava stated one afternoon. Laya smiled. No, sweetheart. Just someone who finally ceased being afraid to learn. Meanwhile, Cole spent lengthy hours on the road handling chapter runs and maintaining the peace between local clubs. Every time his motorcycle rumbled back into camp, Laya found herself standing at the door, pretending it was coincidence. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, he caught her watching him. You waiting on someone? He teased. Maybe, she replied. He grinned. That quiet, rare grin that softened every scar on his face. You got that fire again, he stated. She tilted her head. You gave it back to me. And for a long, quiet moment, neither of them looked away. Weeks later, the Hollow hosted their annual ride for veterans, a gathering where the angels handed out care packages and paid tribute to fallen brothers. Laya helped organize the food stand, her once shaking hands now sure and steady. As the engines rolled in, she saw how people from nearby towns stopped, stared, and smiled. Some for the first occasion realizing that bikers weren't villains but guardians of the forgotten. Cole stood at the head of the line, handing a folded American flag to a gray-haired veteran's widow. For your husband, he stated quietly. He rode once. He still does, just on a longer road. The woman's eyes filled as she whispered gratitude. Laya watched, her heart swelling with something new. Respect, admiration, perhaps even love. Later that evening, under strings of dim yellow bulbs, she found Cole by the fire, tracing a ring he wore on a chain. You ever wonder why I help people? He inquired without looking upward. Because you're good, she stated simply. He declined. Because I wasn't, once. He met her gaze, eyes haunted yet calm. You remind me what being better looks like. Not long after, a letter arrived addressed to Laya. She opened it by the fire while the others worked on their motorcycles. Inside was a simple court document. Troy had been arrested again in Arizona, caught running illegal parts. He was facing time, real time. Her hands shook as she passed the letter to Cole. Guess fate finished what we started, she stated. Fate didn't, Cole replied. You did. You stood up. Laya laughed softly, a sound that caught even her by surprise. It feels strange to not be scared of his name anymore. That's the point, May stated from behind her. You took his power back. That evening, as the fire crackled low, Laya sat beside Cole on an aged log, watching sparks rise like stars. What happens when the road ends? She inquired. It never does, he stated. You just find someone worth riding with. She regarded him, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Maybe I already have. Cole's fingers brushed hers. Rough, hesitant, then certain. Around them the desert wind hummed like an aged song. Months later, Red's Cafe reopened under a new name. Second Wind. Laya owned it now. Her hair tied back, her eyes clear, her laughter genuine. The walls were filled with photographs of the angels, of May, of Cole, of rides through endless skies. On the counter sat a framed note in Cole's messy handwriting. You didn't need saving. Just someone to remind you you could save yourself. Every few weeks, the rumble of Harley engines would echo down the highway. Locals would look up from their meals as a familiar figure walked in, Cole, dusty and grinning. He'd take the corner booth, the same seat from that first day, and she'd pour his coffee. Black, no sugar, still remember? He'd inquire. Always, she'd respond, and every time she'd slip his bill across the counter with a small smile that said more than words ever could. Some called it love, others called it destiny. But for Leah Brooks, it was freedom served warm in a mug. Proof that sometimes the angels who save you are the ones who teach you to fly on your own. It was nearly a year later when life threw its next curve. One summer evening, just before closing, a group of young bikers pulled into Second Wind. They weren't Hell's Angels, just restless boys, loud and cocky, talking tough and acting tougher. Laya smiled politely as they ordered burgers and coffee. But when one of them started getting rude with her waitress, that aged chill returned. Before she could speak, the door swung open. The familiar rumble of a Harley filled the atmosphere. Cole walked in, dust on his boots, the same iron calm in his eyes. The room fell silent. He took one look at the boys, one look at Laya, and smiled. Slow, deliberate, dangerous. "Didn't your mothers teach you to talk nice to women?" he stated. The boys exchanged uneasy glances. Cole didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His reputation did the talking. One of them muttered an apology and stood up. Within seconds, they were gone, engines whining into the dusk. Cole turned to Laya, his tone soft now. "You handle yourself fine?" She grinned. "Yes, but I like it when you show up anyway." Later that evening, they sat out back under the neon glow of the diner sign. The desert wind carried the hum of crickets, and the highway stretched out endless and silver. "You ever think about going back?" Laya inquired. "Back where?" Cole replied, sipping his coffee. "To the man you were before all this?" He chuckled. "No, I buried him the day I joined the road." "Don't miss him either," she acknowledged. "Guess I buried her too. The woman who thought being quiet kept her safe." Cole turned to her, his gaze steady. "You didn't bury her, Laya. You outgrew her." The silence between them felt alive, charged with the weight of everything they'd survived. Laya reached for his hand, the leather of his glove cool against her skin. "You ever think about staying?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Maybe I already have." The headlights of passing trucks painted streaks of light across their faces. Two survivors in the glow of a world that had finally stopped breaking them. As the months passed, Second Wind became more than a diner. It became a refuge. Travelers, bikers, veterans, and lost souls all stopped there, drawn by something they couldn't quite name. On one wall hung a single patch, Cole's, faded from years of road and weather. Beneath it, a small wooden plaque read, "For those who protect, not for glory, but for grace." Laya had framed it herself. Every morning she'd open the doors, pour coffee for strangers, and watch the world come and go. Cole's motorcycle stayed parked out front now, its chrome gleaming in the sun like a silent guardian. Sometimes he rode out with the chapter, but he always came back. No explanations, no promises, just presence. One afternoon, a nervous teenage girl walked in, bruised and scared, asking for work. Laya didn't hesitate. "You're safe here," she stated. Later, as the girl slept in the back, Laya regarded Cole. "I did what you did for me." Cole smiled, pride flickering in his eyes. "That's how you keep the fire burning, darling. You pass it on." On the anniversary of her first night at Second Wind, the Angels rode in full force, 30 motorcycles deep, chrome glinting under the dying sun. The roar filled the valley like a hymn. Townsfolk lined the street, waving, smiling. Laya stood on the porch in her apron, tears shining, but not from sorrow. May arrived too, older now, but just as fierce, embracing Laya like a daughter. Cole stepped off his Harley and placed something small on the counter. A silver keychain in the shape of wings. "For when you're ready to ride your own," he stated. Laya stared at it, speechless. "You think I can?" "I know you can," he stated. The crowd watched as she climbed onto the motorcycle, her hands trembling, but sure. Cole started the engine, then guided her forward down the open road. The roar of the motorcycles behind her sounded like applause. Dust rose around them, gold in the fading light. She wasn't running anymore. She was flying, free, wild, and finally her own. That evening, as the last of the riders disappeared into the horizon, Laya stood outside Second Wind, the neon sign flickering above her. Cole leaned against the doorway, arms folded. "You did good, Brooks," he stated. She smiled softly. "So did you, Mercer." The desert breeze carried the hum of faraway engines, her new lullaby. "You ever think about what brought you here?" she inquired. He looked up at the stars. "Yes, a scared girl asking for help. A biker too stubborn to say no. Guess fate's got a sense of humor." She laughed quietly, stepping closer until their shoulders touched. Or maybe it knows what it's doing. The lights dimmed inside the diner, and for a long, wordless moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Simple, real, and earned. Cole whispered, "You're not hiding anymore, Laya." She acknowledged. "No, I'm home." The highway stretched before them, endless and open. If the story moved you, if you believe real courage can sound like the rumble of a Harley, then ride with us. Subscribe, like, and ring that bell for more stories where compassion wears leather and love rides through dust and dawn. Because some angels don't fall, they arrive roaring.